She owns everything. That's my boss. Please, I can't do this. You work for me. Now serve.
Unbelievable. Look at this.
Help me.
Stinky cockroach, stand up. Alara put down the mop, straightened her back. My name is Alara. Did I ask? Isolde's face darkened, and she stepped closer. The sound of her heels echoed on the basement concrete floor. You all stink, even here with the cleaning supplies. What do you need? Alara's voice was soft, calm. Isolde took a bag of clothes from her hand. 6 o'clock tonight. Staff entrance. Wear this. You're honored to be at my party. I'm sorry, If you refuse, you'll lose your contract with Hartwell tomorrow morning. All these people will lose their jobs because of you. I will go, ma'am. Alara looked back at Isolde and smiled. Hours later, when Isolde's husband walked into the banquet hall, the moment he saw the black woman, he was speechless. 3 weeks earlier, Alara pulled on a Navy uniform in a rented studio in Queens. She slid her father's platinum signet ring off her finger and tucked it into her purse. Harlan Carter's initials caught the light one last time. 5 years dead, and she still wore it most days. Tonight, she couldn't. Tonight, she was someone else. The mirror showed a tired woman in a $14 an hour shirt, not the chairwoman of a $14 billion firm. Not the daughter of the man who built Carter Global from a single Brooklyn brownstone, just Alara. Night shift cleaner, Hartwell HQ, contract crew, badge number 0349. That was the point. The subway was packed. Alara gave up her seat for an elderly woman with a cane, helped a tourist read the map, watched the city blur past the window. Nobody noticed her. Nobody ever did. She designed it that way. Late that night, she badged in at the Hartwell service entrance. The building was a glass tower on Park Avenue. Her building, technically. Carter Global had acquired the parent stake 2 years back. Most of the executive team didn't even know her face. They'd only ever met her signature. She walked past the lobby directory. Top floor. Office of the CEO, Silas Crow. She allowed herself half a smile, just half. In the basement break room, Leora was already there. 62 years old, 4 grandkids in Tegucigalpa, hands like sandpaper from 40 years of mops. She broke her sandwich in half without asking and slid the bigger piece toward Alara. Eat me, huh? You're too thin. Cade showed up 2 minutes later, 20 years old, business major at City College, working 3 jobs to keep his little sister in school. He grinned at Alara, ready to make this place sparkle. The 3 of them rode the freight elevator up together. Oye. Leora hummed something in Spanish. Cade scrolled his phone. Alara closed her eyes for a second and just listened. 2 people the system had decided didn't matter. 2 people who'd shared food with her on her second night. No questions asked. She was going to fix this. Quietly. Properly. Without anyone like Leora losing a paycheck. By night 19, the routine felt like a second skin. The 38th floor was empty late at night. Alara vacuumed the executive suite while Silas Crow sat in his corner office snapping at someone on speakerphone. He didn't look up. People like her didn't register. I don't care what the Carter people want, Bill. That DEI audit is performative theater. We give them a slide deck, they go away. She emptied his trash can. She passed his desk. A printed document sat there. DEI, Initiative Stakeholder Management Strategy. She glanced at the open door. Photographed the page on her burner phone, replaced it exactly where it had been. Evidence, quietly logged, like everything else for 19 days. Her back ached. Her hands smelled like industrial citrus. The board meeting where all of this would matter was 8 days away. That's when Isolde walked in. The click of those heels on marble was different, sharper, drunker. She swept down the executive hallway in a $12,000 Oscar de la Renta, a glass of champagne already in her hand. Her hair was perfect. Her smile wasn't. She saw Alara pushing a vacuum. She snapped her fingers. You, sweetie, go grab my coat from the lounge and don't wrinkle it. Some of us actually paid for ours. Alara straightened, met her eyes. I'm not housekeeping. I clean offices. Isolde blinked. Excuse me? There's a desk attendant on the ground floor. She can help you. The blonde's smile sharpened into something thinner, older, crueler. Oh, we have an attitude problem. She didn't say another word that night. She just stared, long enough for Alara to feel it crawl down her spine. Then she turned on her heel and walked back toward Silas's office. Outside in the corridor, Isolde pulled out her phone, dialed. V, you won't believe the help they hire in this building. A pause, a sharp laugh. No, listen, I have an idea. Tomorrow night, The gala. I want to bring her as my +1, like a little experiment. Another laugh, colder this time. We'll see how long it takes the room to figure out she doesn't belong. 3 floors below, Ilara was already photographing the second document on Silas's desk. She had no idea what was coming for her by morning. Ilara took the subway home at noon, locked her studio door, sat on the bed for 20 minutes without moving. Then she called Tessa Vale. "It's happening tonight," she said, "earlier than I planned. Tell the COO, tell Harlan Brooks, quietly. I want the legal team on standby and Detective Mira Stokes at the gala in plain clothes." Tessa paused on the other end. "Are you sure, Ilara? She just threatened to fire 40 cleaners to humiliate me for fun. Yes, I'm sure." She showered slowly, opened the garment bag Isolde had thrown at her. Inside, a clearance gown. 2 seasons old, sized wrong. The seams already pulled at her shoulders. The fabric smelled like other people's perfume. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her father's voice came back to her. Harlan used to say it whenever a board fought him for being too young, too black, too quiet. The room never sees you coming when they've already decided you don't belong in it. She slid the platinum signet ring off her dresser, tucked it into her clutch, not on her finger, not yet, and took a cab to the gala. Ilara arrived at the venue early. Service entrance. The guest entrance was around the front. She used the door for staff. The service corridor smelled like dish soap and lamb fat. A line of caterers in white jackets shouted over each other in 3 languages. Nobody looked at her twice. The cheap gown, she realized, was actually perfect camouflage. Too formal for a worker, too tired for a guest. A woman in her late 50s stepped forward. Gray hair pulled back, kind brown eyes, a black uniform under a white apron. "You must be the girl Mrs. Isolde talked about." "Ilara, I'm Mrs. Barnes. I've been with the Crow family 22 years. She didn't smile. She didn't have to. She pressed a small bottle of water into Ilara's hand, squeezed her fingers once, briefly. "She's not having a good night, dear. Mr. Silas got bad news from the board this morning. She's been drinking since early afternoon. I'm sorry." "You don't have to apologize for her." Mrs. Barnes's eyes went soft. "Honey, someone needs to. Nobody else in that family ever will." She led Ilara through a service corridor toward the ballroom. The walls vibrated faintly with string music. Light from the chandeliers spilled across her face as they passed an open archway. "She's put you on the carving station." "What's the carving station?" Mrs. Barnes stopped walking, looked at her for a long second. "Oh, baby." The carving station sat at the edge of the ballroom under a chandelier the size of a small car. A silver tray rested on a wooden plinth, and on the tray, a full bone-in lamb roast, glazed amber, crusted with rosemary and salt. 60 pounds of meat, maybe more with the silver underneath. Isolde emerged from the crowd already laughing, Mira Vale at her elbow, phone half raised. "Sweetie, you made it. Come here, I have the cutest little job for you tonight." Ilara said nothing. "You're going to hold the tray right here like a presentation piece until the chef carves later. The guests need to admire the lamb before it's served. That tray weighs 60 pounds. "Oh, don't be dramatic. It's just heavy enough to be interesting." Isolde leaned in. Her champagne breath was sour. "Remember the deal, sweetie. Smile, or every cleaner in your building goes home tomorrow with a pink slip." "Yes." Then she straightened, linked her arm through Ilara's like they were old friends, and pulled her toward the cocktail crowd. "Before you start your little job, let me show you off." She paraded Ilara from cluster to cluster. Each introduction was the same cruel sentence with different vowels. "This is my friend Ilara. She's exploring a career change. Doesn't she clean up nicely? Ilara, this is the Marshall family. Their son just got into Yale." A woman in pearls laughed nervously. A man pretended to take a phone call. One older guest, a banker with silver hair, wouldn't meet Ilara's eyes. Ilara smiled at each of them, said nothing. Then Isolde steered her toward a tall man near the bar. 60. Well-built. Kind crow's feet. A pin on his lapel that read Hartwell Board Chair. "Bill, I want you to meet my +1. Harlan Brooks turned. His handshake was firm and his smile was warm. "Pleasure, Harlan Brooks. What brings you here this evening?" Isolde cut in. "Oh, Bill, you're going to love this. She cleans the executive floor at Hartwell. I thought she could use a night out." Harlan's smile flickered, just a millisecond. He looked at Ilara properly. Then he looked at her again, longer the second time. Something in his face shifted, then settled. "It's a pleasure to meet you, ma'am." He emphasized the ma'am. He held the handshake an extra beat. I hope you enjoy your evening. He excused himself, walked away with the slightly too careful steps of a man trying not to run. Across the room, Harlan pulled out his phone, dialed someone. Alara watched him over Isolde's shoulder. Then Isolde pulled her back toward the carving station. All right, project showtime. Alara looked at her for a long moment. She lifted the tray, her arms locked under it. She smiled. For the first 20 minutes, it was almost manageable. Guests circled in tuxedos and gowns. They admired the lamb. A few admired Alara, politely, the way you'd admire a centerpiece. A boy of about 6 tugged his mother's sleeve. Mama, why is she smiling so hard? Don't stare, sweetheart. That's not our business. The mother pulled the child away. Alara kept her face still. A small platform of muscle memory carried her. She'd boxed 4 mornings a week for a decade, but 60 pounds locked out at chest height was not designed for any human body to sustain. By minute 30, her deltoids began to burn. By minute 40, the burn climbed up into her upper back. Isolde made a circuit, came back, made another. Mira filmed each pass and posted to her Instagram story with the caption, "Diversity higher." 3 socialites read the caption. 2 laughed. 1 looked away. Alara smiled. She did not move. At some point later that evening, Silas Crow walked into the ballroom. He was late. In the car, he had received an email from Carter Global's chief operating officer. Ms. Carter will be present at tonight's event. She has an announcement that will affect the board agenda. He had been pacing his car for 9 of those minutes. Carter. He had never met Alara Carter. 2 years he'd run her subsidiary. 2 years of board memos, audit demands, restructuring drafts, nothing but a signature at the bottom of paper. He handed his coat to the girl at the door, scanned the room for his wife. His eyes traveled past the carving station, past it, then back. A black woman was holding a silver tray, 60 pounds of lamb. Her face was perfectly composed. Her arms were perfectly locked, but something about her. Silas froze in the middle of the floor. A passing waiter said, "Excuse me, sir." Silas didn't answer. His brain was misfiring, pulling old images, a shareholder report photograph, a Forbes cover from years back, 40 under 40, a black and white portrait that had hung in the lobby of Carter Global the day he'd signed the merger papers. The woman in those photographs, the woman holding the tray. Same face. A trickle of sweat ran down the inside of his collar. His pulse climbed in his throat. It can't be. But the longer he looked, the more it could. Across the floor, Alara caught his eyes, just for a second. She did not nod. She did not smile. She blinked once, slowly, like a confirmation. Silas's coat slid off his arm and hit the floor. He didn't notice. Isolde spotted him from the bar, waved. "Honey, come look at my project." Silas pulled himself together with the kind of effort it takes a drowning man to swim. He plastered a smile across his face, crossed the room, kissed his wife on the cheek. His eyes never left the carving station. "Sweetie," Mira nudged Isolde, "your husband looks a little green." "Oh, Greg just hates these things. He'll have 3 drinks and survive." She turned back to admire her own work, the black woman holding her tray. But Silas wasn't reaching for 3 drinks. Silas was already calculating how many minutes he had before everything he owned stopped being his. By minute 50, the burn had become a fire. Alara's arms were no longer holding the tray. The tray was using them as scaffolding. Sweat ran into her eyes. She blinked it away. She did not raise a hand to wipe it. She could not. Across the floor, Cade was working a tray of canapes. Same Cade from the cleaning crew. Same uniform, but white tonight. A catering side job. He saw her. He stopped mid-step. Then he moved fast, 6 long strides across the marble. Canapes forgotten. "Ma'am, let me help. I'll spell you for a minute. Let me—" A heel clicked behind him. "Excuse me, sir. We're fine." Isolde smiling like a mother at a tantrum. "She's working. She doesn't need rescuing. Don't you have something else to do?" Cade's jaw locked. He looked past Isolde at Alara. Alara shook her head. One small movement. Not yet. Cade stepped back. His tray trembled in his hands. "Yes, ma'am," he said. But he didn't leave the cocktail floor. He stayed within 10 feet of the carving station for the rest of the night. Alara could feel him watching her. Sorry. It was the only thing keeping her standing. Mira drifted up with a fresh glass of champagne in one hand and her phone in the other. "How's our project doing?" "Don't get too close," Isolde murmured. "She might be contagious." Both women laughed. Mira held up her phone. "Recording. Smile for the followers, sweetie. You're famous now. The caption's blowing up. The Instagram post had tens of thousands of views in 90 minutes. People in the comments were calling Ilara slurs Isolde hadn't even said yet. Isolde leaned in close enough that Ilara could smell the Chardonnay on her breath. This is what I do, by the way, to people who think they can talk back to me. Janitors, nannies, doormen. I make them remember what they are. Ilara did not look at her. Yes, ma'am. Good girl. The slur came next. Quiet, almost gentle. The cruelest version of that word. Mira caught it on video. She did not post that part. By minute 80, Ilara's hands had started to tremble. Not just her hands, her whole upper body. Fine vibrations she was trying very hard to control. The lamb shifted half an inch on the silver. She corrected it. Her shoulders screamed. The boy from earlier walked past the station again, held his mother's hand. He pointed at Ilara. He said something quiet. His mother, the same woman who had said, "Not our business," stopped this time, looked at Ilara, looked at her son. Then she walked up to the carving station. "Ma'am, are you all right? Do you need water? Should I—" "You should keep walking, sweetheart." Isolde appeared instantly at her elbow. "She's fine. She signed up for this." The mother looked between Isolde and Ilara. Long, slow. "I'm sorry," she said to Ilara. She walked away with her son. The boy looked back twice. A single tear slid down Ilara's cheek. She did not wipe it. She could not. Behind the carving station, beyond a swinging service door propped open 6 inches for air, the kitchen line clattered. Ilara caught a flicker of movement through the gap. Leora, 62 years old, on a side shift washing the gala's dishes for $15 an hour. She was at the back sink, yellow gloves on, scrubbing a pan. She had looked up. She was looking at Ilara now. Through the door gap, their eyes met. Leora's face crumpled. Her hand went to her mouth. She set down the pan. She started moving toward the door, mouthing words. No, mija, no." Ilara met her eyes and shook her head. One time. Almost invisible. "Not now." "Don't." Leora froze. 2 tears spilled down her cheeks. She nodded once, pressed a fist to her chest, turned back to the sink and started washing the same pan again. Her shoulders shook in silence. Of the 200 guests in that ballroom, Leora was the only person who understood exactly what was happening. She would tell that story for the rest of her life. By minute 115, Isolde and Mira returned, both giggling, both on glass number 4. Isolde had a fresh Cabernet in her hand. The wine was deep red, almost black. She stumbled theatrically and tipped the entire glass straight down the front of Ilara's dress. Red wine soaked through the cheap silk, spread across her chest, her stomach, pooled at the waist, streamed down onto the silver tray, onto the lamb, onto the marble at her feet. Ilara could not dodge. Ilara could not cover herself. Ilara's hands were holding 60 pounds of meat she was not allowed to put down. Isolde raised her hands like a cartoon. "Oh no, sweetie, I am so sorry." The room went quiet. 40 heads turned. Phones came up. Mira was already streaming live. Margaret Taylor, the columnist from the New York Society Ledger, was streaming too. Her audience, nearly 1 million viewers and climbing. Isolde smiled wider. "I'm sure one of the staff can lend you a towel, dear." Cade took 2 long steps forward, stopped. Ilara's eyes were on him. She shook her head. Cade stopped. Ilara did not move, did not speak, did not cry. She just kept holding the tray and looking at Isolde. The wine ran in slow streams down her arms. It dripped from her elbows onto the marble. The room, the whole ballroom, had gone unnaturally still. Somebody coughed. Somebody else's phone made a tick-tock sound. A silver-haired woman near the bar set her drink down, walked toward Ilara with a cocktail napkin in her hand. Isolde's voice rose, sharp now. "Ma'am, please don't interfere. She's staff." The silver-haired woman did not look at her. "Honey," she offered Ilara the napkin. "Honey, sit down, please." "She can't sit down," Isolde snapped. "She has a job to do." The silver-haired woman turned slowly. "What is wrong with you?" The whole bar heard it. Isolde's smile cracked for the first time all night. She recovered fast, too fast, and waved the woman off. Honestly, people these days, "V, get me another drink." But Mira wasn't moving. Mira was watching her own live stream metrics climb, watching the comments scroll. Who is this woman? Why isn't anyone stopping her? Is the lady with the tray okay? OMG, the dignity. Someone help her. The view count ticked past 940,000, then 950. The story was outpacing every breaking news clip on the platform. Across the floor, near the side entrance, a woman in a plain navy gown stood very still. Tessa Vale, Alara's executive assistant of 15 years. She'd been there the whole night. Alara knew. Isolde did not. Tessa met Alara's eyes, tilted her head 1 degree toward the stage. Ready when you are. Alara closed her eyes for half a second, opened them. She was ready. 4 meters away, Silas Crow had been nursing the same whiskey for 20 minutes. He hadn't taken a sip in 8. When the wine hit Alara's dress, he took 1 step forward. He opened his mouth. To say what? He didn't know. Isolde, stop. This is Alara Carter, but saying any of those names in this room right now was admitting too much. 200 witnesses. His wife had spent the evening humiliating the woman who owned his company. Silas's mouth closed. The whiskey glass shook in his hand. A single ice cube slipped over the rim and fell onto the carpet. He did not pick it up. He did not move. Alara looked at him, not for a second this time, for 2 full seconds, long enough for Silas to know she just watched you decide. She just watched you choose silence. She will remember. He turned without saying a word, walked straight to the men's restroom, locked himself in a stall, and vomited into the toilet. In the ballroom, the lights began to dim. A microphone clicked on at the front of the stage. A man in a tuxedo stepped up to the podium. The MC of the gala, Harlan Brooks, stood in the front row. He turned around. He looked directly at Isolde, then directly at the carving station, then directly at the empty space by the bar where Silas had been. He nodded once, slowly, like a man signing something. The MC tapped his microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder of the Carter Foundation, the chairwoman of Carter Global Holdings, the woman whose vision built tonight. Isolde turned to Mira. What did he just say? Ms. Alara Carter. Isolde looked at Alara, looked at the stage, looked at the wine-stained woman she had spent 2 hours torturing. Her face went the same color the wine had been. It's a different Carter. But Alara was already lowering the silver tray. Her arms screamed when the weight left them. The lamb wobbled. Cade stepped in and caught the tray from her hands. Steady, reverent, like he was lifting a crown off her head. Alara opened her clutch. Inside, the platinum signet ring, Harlan Carter's initials. She slid it onto her finger. Across the ballroom, Silas Crow stepped out of the men's restroom, pale, his collar still damp. He stepped out just in time to see the MC's hand sweep toward the woman by the carving station. The whiskey glass slipped from Silas's fingers, hit the carpet, rolled. 8 people turned to look at him, including Harlan Brooks, including, finally, his own wife. Honey, Isolde said. Her voice had gone thin and high. Honey, why are you... Greg, look at me. Silas could not look at her. Silas was watching Alara Carter walk across the marble floor of a ballroom she had paid for, in a dress soaked dark with red wine, with her father's ring on her hand, toward a microphone she had paid for, in a building she had paid for. Tessa Vale fell into step 3 paces behind her. Cade followed 2 paces behind Tessa. Margaret Taylor's live stream hit 1 million viewers as Alara climbed the stage stairs. She did not change the dress. She did not wipe the wine. She let every camera in the room see exactly what had been done to her. She reached the podium, adjusted the microphone, looked out at the room. Calm, steady, terrifying. Good evening. Her voice was small, warm, conversational. 200 people leaned forward. My name is Alara Carter. My father was Harlan Carter. 5 years ago when he died, I inherited his firm, Carter Global Holdings. She let the name settle. Some of you know us as the company that quietly acquired the parent stake in Hartwell Industries, the company that funds tonight's gala, exactly 2 years ago. Isolde's hand groped for the bar to steady herself. She missed. For the past 19 nights, Alara continued, I have been working as a contract cleaner inside Hartwell HQ. Night shift, badge 0349. I did this because I wanted to know what my building feels like to the people who keep it standing while everyone else goes home. She paused. Tonight, I learned something I needed to learn. The room was completely silent. I learned what it feels like to be invisible in a room I built. I learned what it feels like to be called project by the wife of one of my own CEOs. I learned what red wine tastes like through silk. And I learned what happens to the silence of 200 people when a woman is asked to hold 60 pounds for 2 hours. She looked directly at Isolde. Mrs. Crow, thank you for tonight. It was educational. A gasp rippled through the room. Mrs. Mira Vale, your video has been preserved, including the parts you chose not to post. Mira's phone dropped from her hand, cracked on the floor. Alara turned slightly, did not name Silas yet. Let him stand there in the silence of being unnamed. He felt every second of it. Effective immediately, 3 things will happen. She held up one finger. 1. Sterling Marlowe auditors will begin a full forensic review of the Hartwell executive culture starting Monday morning. Focus: harassment complaints that may have been closed without resolution. 2 fingers. 2. Every member of the overnight cleaning crew at Hartwell HQ, every single one, receives a $25,000 dignity bonus tonight, plus full benefits, plus a personal apology from me on behalf of every person in this room who walked past them. A real cheer rose from the back of the room. Cade lifted both hands. Tessa was already crying. 3 fingers. 3. Every social committee, every charitable board, every sponsorship arrangement currently held by Mrs. Isolde Crow, through her family, through her husband, through this foundation, through any entity Carter Global underwrites, is suspended pending review, effective tonight. Isolde made a sound, a small animal sound. Her champagne flute slipped from her fingers, shattered at her heels, the same kind of glass Alara had been forced to sweep in a basement 6 hours earlier. She looked at Silas. Silas finally looked back. The look on his face told her everything. Greg, her voice broke. Greg, why are you not saying anything? Tell them this is a misunderstanding. Tell them, Greg, please. Silas closed his eyes. He did not say a single word. Above them, on the stage, Alara Carter leaned into the microphone one more time. Chairwoman of Carter Global Holdings, daughter of Harlan Carter, in a wine-stained dress and her father's ring. Thank you for your generosity tonight. The Carter Foundation has raised $42 million in pledges for domestic worker protections. She let the silence stretch. Mrs. Crow, you can sit down now. Isolde did not sit. Isolde ran. She pushed through the crowd toward the stage. Heels skidded on the wine-stained marble, the same wine she had poured. Ms. Carter, Alara, please. Cade stepped in front of her at the bottom of the stage stairs. Mrs. Crow, the stage is closed. Get out of my way, you little... Cade didn't move. Tessa Vale appeared next to him. Neither of them spoke. Isolde looked up at the stage. Alara, I had no idea. I would never have... There was clearly some kind of a misunderstanding. Alara stepped to the edge of the stage, microphone still in hand, voice still calm. You knew exactly what I was, Mrs. Crow. No, that's not... You knew I was a human being. That should have been enough. The live stream, at 1.2 million viewers now, caught the line clean. Isolde's hand went to her mouth. She turned around. She tried to find Silas in the crowd. Silas was standing where she had left him. He was not crying. He was not moving. He was looking at the floor the way a man looks at his own grave. A new voice came up beside Isolde, calm, professional. A black woman in a navy suit, mid-40s, badge in hand. Mrs. Crow, my name is Detective Mira Stokes, NYPD Community Affairs Liaison. I was a guest tonight. Isolde blinked. What? I'm going to need to ask you some questions. 2 complaints are already on file from this evening. Assault for the wine. False imprisonment for the tray. There may be additional charges depending on what your friend's video shows. I didn't, Greg. Detective Stokes did not raise her voice. Ma'am, please come with me, quietly. There are cameras everywhere. She gestured. 2 plainclothes officers stepped forward from the back of the room. Neither of them touched Isolde. They didn't have to. Across the floor, Mira Vale was already trying to leave through the side door. A 3rd officer was waiting for her there. Miss Vale, we need to talk about the video on your phone, including the parts you didn't post. Stay with us. Mira's live stream had just hit 1.4 million viewers. The phone was still in her hand, still recording. Isolde started crying. Real tears now, mascara streaming down a face that 20 minutes ago had been laughing. Greg, do something. Silas finally moved. He walked across the marble floor, slow, drained, past the wine puddle, past the carving station, past the chandelier the size of a small car. He stopped at the foot of the stage. He looked up at Alara. Miss Carter. His voice cracked on her name. On behalf of Hartwell Industries, I want to extend our most sincere... Harlan Brooks stepped between them, 60 years old, Hartwell board chairman. His voice was even quieter than Silas's. Silas, sit down. Bill, The board is meeting first thing tomorrow morning. You will be there. You are suspended without pay, effective right now. Don't make me say it twice in front of 2 million people. Silas's mouth opened, then closed. He nodded once, walked back across the marble. He did not look at his wife on the way past. Detective Stokes took Isolde's elbow at the door. Mrs. Barnes, the housekeeper of 22 years, stood in the service hallway holding Isolde's coat. She did not offer it. She handed it to the officer instead. "Take care of yourself, Mrs. Isolde," she said quietly. Isolde looked at the woman who had raised her children. "Mrs. Barnes, please." "Good night, ma'am." The door clicked shut behind her. On the stage, Alara lowered the microphone. She looked out at the room, at the wine on her dress, at the tears running quietly down Tessa's cheeks, at Cade standing guard at the stairs, at the empty space where Silas used to stand. She did not smile. She did not cry. She set the microphone gently on the podium and said one last thing into the open room. "Thank you for letting me be invisible for 19 nights. It taught me everything I needed to know." The applause came slow at first. Then it built. Then it rose into something that sounded like a whole room finally exhaling. Alara walked off the stage. Tessa was waiting at the bottom with a clean blazer. Cade followed 2 paces behind, just like before. By morning, Alara Carter was a household name. The live stream Margaret Taylor had aired now sat at 38 million views in 48 hours. The hashtags #WineLady and #LambTrayLady trended for 11 straight days. On TikTok, the Lamb Tray Challenge took off. Strangers held heavy objects at chest height for charity. The trend raised $6 million for domestic worker nonprofits in 3 weeks. Every news outlet in the country ran the same single frame. A black woman in a wine-soaked dress standing perfectly still under a chandelier. 200 guests in tuxedos drifting past like she wasn't there. The story did not slow down. It accelerated. Sterling Marlowe auditors arrived at Hartwell HQ on Monday at 6 a.m. They worked for 9 straight days. What they found rewrote everything. 18 months before the gala, a senior black manager at Hartwell had filed a formal harassment complaint. Her name was Prevail, no relation. The complaint cited 2 white directors. Her complaint cited racial slurs, performance sabotage, and a sustained campaign to push her out of the company. The complaint had been closed quietly with an NDA signed off personally by Silas Crow. Rhea had been forced to resign 2 months later. She had not worked in finance since. When the Sterling Marlowe report leaked to the press, the Wall Street Journal ran it on the front page. Hartwell CEO buried civil rights complaint to protect friends. The story stayed there for 6 days. The criminal and civil proceedings moved fast. Isolde Crow was charged with second-degree assault for the wine, false imprisonment for the tray, filing a false report. Mira's missing bracelet stunt earlier had been logged with venue security. The final sentence had 4 parts. 180 days of community service at a domestic worker nonprofit personally selected by Alara Carter, $85,000 in restitution, mandated cultural competency training, a permanent restraining order from every property Carter Global owned or operated. Silas Crow was terminated for cause by the Hartwell board the morning after the gala. He lost his $9.2 million severance package. He was barred for life from sitting on any Carter-affiliated board. The civil suit Rhea Vale filed against him personally settled for an undisclosed 8-figure sum within 6 months. Mira Vale's live stream video became evidence in a separate workplace discrimination case her own employer had been quietly fighting. She was let go within 2 weeks. But the legal consequences were only the opening notes. The social consequences came in waves, and they cut deeper than anything a court ever ordered. Within 48 hours, the Junior League of New York suspended Isolde indefinitely. The Metropolitan Museum's Costume Institute Committee removed her name from next year's gala patrons list. The New York Philharmonic Patron Circle terminated her membership in a single line of email. The Maidstone Club out in the Hamptons, where Isolde had summered since she was a teenager, stopped returning her calls. Her own family-funded charitable foundation, the Crow Family Foundation, voted her off the board. The vote was unanimous. Her mother-in-law made the motion. Then came the punch nobody saw coming. Isolde's mother released a public statement through the family's law firm. Margaret Davenport Crow, 72 years old, 4th generation Greenwich, a name that had meant something on the East Coast since 1882. The behavior shown in the footage from Saturday evening does not reflect the values our family has held for 4 generations. We stand with Miss Carter and the many women like her, whose dignity has been disrespected behind closed doors and in front of cameras. We will not be making further comment." Isolde reportedly cried for 2 hours when she read it. The Spence School and Buckley School received over 200 emails from concerned parents within 72 hours. Isolde's children were enrolled at the schools. Both schools suggested the family withdraw voluntarily. The children transferred to a smaller private school upstate in the middle of the school year. Elara Carter personally wrote to both school heads. She asked them, directly and on the record, not to punish the children for their mother's actions. The letters were leaked. They changed the public conversation overnight. Isolde's planned memoir, titled A Life of Grace, had a 6-figure advance from a major publisher. The contract was canceled within 72 hours of the gala. The publisher's statement was 4 sentences long. Her Instagram account had 180,000 followers. Isolde deactivated it herself after 3 days. The comment sections were impossible to moderate. She did not return to social media. 3 weeks after the gala, Silas Crowe filed for divorce. The prenuptial agreement they had signed 18 years earlier was airtight. Isolde kept her Manhattan apartment and a small annuity. Custody was split, but Silas, jobless and facing his own civil suit, made no real effort to contest the arrangement. She had entered the gala that night with a long list of things: a husband, a name, a family foundation seat, a publishing deal, 4 social club memberships, children at one of the most exclusive private schools in the country. By the end of the following month, she had none of them, and the most important thing she lost was the one she never knew she could. Prevail, the senior manager Silas had pushed out 18 months earlier, got a phone call. Harlan Brooks called her the day after the gala. He apologized on behalf of Hartwell Industries. He offered her 3 years of back pay. He offered her a public statement of restoration. He offered her a promotion. Rhea asked for one more thing. She asked to meet Elara Carter. They had dinner the following week. 2 black women in a quiet Italian restaurant in Brooklyn. They talked for 4 hours. Elara made one phone call from the table. The following Monday, Rhea Vale was announced as the new chief of staff for Hartwell Industries. She reported directly to Harlan Brooks. He had agreed to serve as interim CEO until a permanent replacement could be found. The Wall Street Journal ran an op-ed the following Sunday. The headline became almost as famous as the live stream itself. What 200 people didn't see? The piece named every guest by name. Every person who had walked past Elara while she swept glass off the lobby marble 6 hours before the keynote. 3 of them resigned from civic boards within the week. 2 issued public apologies. The rest, the article noted, were still trying to explain what they had been doing with their eyes that night. 1 month later, Elara Carter walked back into Hartwell HQ at 9 in the morning. She wore a charcoal suit, her father's signet ring on her right hand. No badge, no name tag. The Park Avenue lobby was full of people in suits who suddenly knew exactly who she was. She did not go to the executive floor first. She went to the basement. Leora was scrubbing a coffee station when Elara pushed open the break room door. 62 years old, yellow gloves on, humming the same Spanish song from 3 weeks earlier. Leora looked up. She dropped the cloth. She crossed the room in 5 steps and hugged Elara so hard, both of them almost fell over. Leora's shoulders shook. Elara closed her eyes. For the first time in a month, she let herself cry. "Mija," Leora whispered. "Mija, I'm sorry," Elara said into her shoulder. "I'm so sorry it took me 19 nights. You came back. That's what matters." Cade walked in 2 minutes later with the coffee tray in his hands. He saw them. He set the tray down. He grinned that 20-year-old grin and shrugged. "Ma'am, boss, whatever we call you now." "Elara is fine." "Okay, Elara, welcome home." The whole break room gave her a standing ovation. The entire night shift crew, 46 people, every one of them now with $25,000 in the bank. She rode the freight elevator up to the 38th floor with Leora and Cade, just like before. Leora hummed. Cade scrolled his phone. Elara closed her eyes and listened. The corner office that used to belong to Silas Crowe was empty. Painters were stripping the walls. Elara watched them work for a long minute. "Don't repaint it for an executive," she told the foreman. "Tear out the desk, bring in couches, get a coffee machine, big windows, soft chairs, blankets in the corner. Anyone who works in this building can come up here on their break. I want it called the Leora Room." Leora froze in the doorway. "Mija, no." "Mama Leora, yes." She did not take the corner office. She took a smaller one 2 floors down. Rhea Vale's old office, the one Rhea had been forced to leave a year and a half earlier. She walked into it, sat at the desk, picked up the phone, called her father's grave, said, "We did it, Daddy." A year later, on a slow Tuesday in October, a podcast episode dropped on a small platform with a barely tasteful audience. The episode title was Why I Was Cancelled, a story nobody wants to hear. The host was Isolde Crow. The episode pulled 412 listens in its first month. The top voted comment, which Isolde could not delete, read, "She still does not understand why she is here." Isolde herself was scrubbing the kitchen counter of a domestic worker resource center in the Bronx. Day 180 of her community service. The supervisor, a woman named Maria who had once been called Project by a wealthy employer of her own, pointed at a stain. She did not speak. Isolde scrubbed harder. She did not speak either. She had finally learned how to be quiet. Alara Carter stood at her 38th floor window the same afternoon, watching New York pour itself into rush hour. Tessa Vale knocked once and walked in with a cup of coffee. Detective Stokes on line 2, the Carter Foundation's Domestic Worker Initiative just funded its 100th shelter. "Tell her thank you. Tell her I'll be there for the ribbon cutting." Tessa paused in the doorway. "Boss, are you doing okay?" Alara looked at her reflection in the glass, a woman in a charcoal suit, her father's ring on her hand. The skyline of a city she had never stopped believing belonged to everyone behind her. "I'm doing okay, Tessa. I'm doing the work." She turned away from the window. Down on the street, 20 floors below, a young black woman was sweeping the sidewalk in front of a coffee shop. She did not look up. Nobody looked at her either. For now. If you were one of those 200 people in that ballroom, would you have stopped or would you have walked past? Drop a heart in the comments if you would have stopped. Like the video. Share with someone who needs to see this. Subscribe for next week's story. Because dignity is not a privilege you grant the people beneath you. There is no one beneath you. Yo, how you treat people who can't do nothing for you, that's your whole character. For real. The janitor, the waiter, the cleaner, they real people with real lives. Treat everyone like they matter. 'Cause spoiler alert, they do. Whether you know it or not.